Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bells Must Ring podcast. I am your host, Andrew Rice, here with my usual co host, Arnav Sarkar. Um, Before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, which is going to be we're going to be dealing with a lot of football, I did just want to mention that uh, the On the Banks website will be undergoing a major change in the near future. I believe it's August 16th. I have to double check on that date. There is an article out now published by the people up at SB Nation. When the interface for On the Banks does change, everybody will have to sign back in using their email. There are more steps to follow on that article itself, but I recommend everybody take a look on that article, get prepared for when On the Banks does change its interface, so you're not completely caught off guard when it's time to log in. That being said, one other thing that I wanted to talk about is that me and Arnav have started a opponent preview series for football. I believe he just got done wrapping up the Washington Huskies preview. Uh, so far, we have obviously Ohio, Miami, Ohio, Norfolk State, Iowa, Minnesota, and Washington. Um, it's great to just take a look and see what our opponents have to offer this season, and see what we might be dealing with as we inch slowly and closer and closer to kickoff. It's hard to believe it's less than a month away at this
Yeah,
point.
we're in August. I mean, we're not. I mean, we're less than a month away now from the Ohio game, which is going to be I think August 28th. So really looking forward to it. I mean, this is probably going to be like the most I've ever looked forward to a Rutgers game, especially being here and on the banks, and this season in particular being. Going to games and just covering it and, the whole 9 yards. I mean, the team's on the up and coming as well, of course, as we, I'm sure we'll discuss again in this episode as we do every week. The roster looking good on both sides of the ball and special teams. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the preview series that we've been doing, I mean, I think it's really interesting and good work that goes out every week, and it's good for us too because like it gives us a chance to learn about these opponents that I mean, obviously we learn about them to some degree, but I mean we know them to some degree being in the Big Ten, especially our Big Ten opponents, but we usually don't get a shot to really study who's going to be their big players, this and that, and what we're going to be dealing with. So I mean, I've had like a ton of fun already in my three contributions, which were the even games, I guess, which were Miami, Ohio, Iowa, Washington. So yeah, and I think it's just a good way to look at the opponents, what their strengths are, weaknesses, players that are coming in and out, because that changes every year, just like Rutgers. So just even though we're playing some of the same teams as last year, I mean, they look very different. And I also like to, I guess, fluff it up, give it a little backdrop about, when we last played them, what the results were, what their schedule looks like, where this game falls for them in their season, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely one of the more fun series that we have going on right now, for the summer. And, it's good content, but it's also very informative. So for any Rutgers fans who want to learn more about, the opponents, we have the series going. We're halfway done now. We have 6 more to go, and we should be wrapping that up close to when the season starts before Ohio game week. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much, I guess, sums that up. But yeah, like I said, really looking forward to football season. This is a great way to learn about the opponents and to, I guess, get hyped for kickoff. So I mean, all for doing stuff like that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see like what the difference between our opponents from when we do our preseason opponent preview to when we do our game week opponent preview. It's going to be very different to see like what's going on, um, what's different essentially.
Yeah, that's true. Because, like, during the season, I wanted to, start like an analysis series where I analyze every game. Andrew's going to take care of, like, previews, recaps, all that good stuff. I also want to do a scouting series on, the team's previous matchups within the season, look at where they stand. And obviously, things can change from now and then. I guess with the exception of the first game, Ohio, I mean, the rest of them, there's going to be tape on and there's going to be previous matchups. So yeah, there's going to be a lot that changed. Like we have some sort of idea right now as to what these teams are going to look like in the fall, but I mean, it could be very different, especially like in terms of the Big Ten games. I mean, we don't, we're going to have a lot more intel on Iowa, Minnesota, Washington, all the way down the line as to where these teams are, what their aspirations are, their strengths and weaknesses. It's definitely gonna change a bit. So I mean, we have the summer series now to take over an overarching look, and then we're gonna take a closer look at kind of like the X's and O's of matchups. And yeah, where the teams really do stand, because I mean, teams could surprise, they could disappoint. You just don't know. So I mean,
Look at Indiana.
Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking about Indiana when I was saying that. I mean, like nobody had them where they were, and they won, 11-1. They were. You don't know which team on the schedule that could be this year. So it could be Rutgers potentially. It could be like a lot of people have Illinois as a dark horse in the Big Ten. We play them, so it could be any of those teams. It could be Iowa. I mean, it could be. You never know, and some other team could disappoint too. So I mean, it's always good to, we're taking a look now. We'll take a look then, see what changes. And yeah, I mean, weekly coverage is going to definitely be a lot of fun, given all the different stuff that we're going to be talking about every week. And of course, also, I'm going to try to keep a tab on all the soccer going on as well, men's and women's. So I mean, it should be a lot of good coverage between soccer and especially football during the season. Multiple articles and previews, recaps, the whole night analysis. The whole 9 yards. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of where we're at right now.
I can't wait for football season. It's so close. So I guess taking a little bit of a step away from football and heading more towards the big news in the athletic department, something that we covered on a previous podcast and would figure we give a little bit of a footnote here, is that Rutgers Athletics has hired Keli Zinn to be their new athletic director. Keli Zinn was the deputy athletic director at LSU and the deputy athletic director at West Virginia before that. She worked under current Rutgers president William Tate, is very highly recommended in her field, seen as a up and comer or somebody that has all the makings of a great athletic director. And during her press conference, she talked about winning. She talked about alignment. She talked about getting everybody on the same page. So the experience is there. The talk is there. Now let's see if she can put it in action, right?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about it on the last special episode with Keli Zinn officially being appointed, but a lot to look forward to. I mean, yeah, like you said, the experience. I mean, West Virginia, LSU. Even before that as a compliance director, and then the stuff that she's done with NIL, from the documentary to everything else. I mean, like she even mentioned in our conference at Rutgers, her plans to use the New York and Philadelphia media markets to create more deals. And yeah, I mean, that's obviously a huge part of it. But on top of that, I mean, the on the field success has been outstanding for LSU. I mean, across multiple sports, gymnastics, basketball, baseball, football has been very good. And she personally managed or was the primary sports administrator for football and gymnastics. Gymnastics going through a bit of an overhaul, a new coach, and everything. And football, of course, is the big money maker. And then in terms of the revenue part, she did a great job for that as well, whether it's ticket sales, merchandising, donor support. So I mean, she definitely has a vision. And yeah, I mean, now that's done, I mean, the whole saga, I guess, of the hiring process is officially behind us, which is a good thing, because we'd spend a lot of previous episodes lamenting about the process, but now that's in the books. And Zinn's very, very qualified in terms of both financially, with her NIL and with her college experience, which I think is very important. So I think like you said, alignment. I think that's the key word, because with President Tate and Zinn coming from LSU, both having detailed visions, both being big supporters of athletics, making sure that athletics is going to get the funds that they need to be competitive. I think that's going to make all the difference. And yeah, and I think that's the big thing. I think athletics being competitive, making the difference, can not only have a good impact on the athletes and on the fans, but really on the whole university. So I'm really glad that we have leadership that believes in growing Rutgers athletics, making sure that they keep up with the times, with the NIL, because that's obviously constantly changing. And Rutgers, if they really want to compete for championships, they can't afford to be left behind in the race much further. So I'm glad that they're going to be able to pick up those efforts in terms of NIL and recruiting. And yeah, I think Zinn's a great hire. I'm excited to see like what she exactly does in terms of NIL, in terms of everything else to guide Rutgers into this modern age of NIL and everything that has to go with that.
I read an article by, think it was Brian Fonseca of NJ.com not too long ago, where he talked about the greatest enemy to Rutgers athletics is apathy. Unfortunately, this whole athletics program has so much apathy like sewn into it because of the
Yeah.
constant like shortcomings. However, things are starting to get better. We have qualified people in their positions, and in reality, when that apathy gets turned around, which Zinn will have to play a major part in turning that apathy around, those donors will come. That's kind of, just to break it down in a very simple way. Um, Dealing with people in New Jersey is a lot different than dealing with people in Louisiana. You know,
Right,
Do-
especially around like college sports and in
right?
particular.
Jersey kind of has this like Jersey,
I kind of like that
the
apathy.
Jersey attitude. I
Yeah,
would say like the Jersey like
there's a lot of things that contribute to that. I mean, I think part of it's like the pro sports culture being so dominant, whether it's like again New York or Philly, which is something that Zinn wants to tap into. Secondly, I mean, the Rutgers teams themselves obviously not being up to the mark sometimes, and that doesn't really inspire the casual fan or sometimes even the hardcore fan to donate. And some third thing is sometimes the vision hasn't really been there. I mean, the support from the administration itself hasn't really always been there to inspire fans to donate, to really support, go out of their way to support the team. But now that part is going to be there. So I mean, yeah, it's going to take a different kind of convincing. It's not it's not SEC country. We're not Alabama. We're not Ohio State either,
we're
unfortunately.
not
But
LSU.
we're not LSU, but I mean, can we, continue to grow the brand? I mean, the fact that Rutgers, I mean, they've gotten this far in football. I mean, they've gotten with Greg Schiano leading the way. I mean, doing whatever he can with the NIL, and now we have, I mean, someone who, is going to steer this program forward, all the programs forward, really, in terms of fundraising, in terms of recruiting, in terms of, all of that, and that's going to lead to the on-field success. So we really need to get people to buy into the vision, whether they're alumni, students, community fans, donors, especially donors and corporations. I think more than any, whether that's a fortunate or unfortunate thing, I don't know. But I mean, that's just the name of the game. So I mean, you really have to convince the high money donors as well.
I think Arnav lagged out a little bit there, but he was making a couple great points um, when it comes to what Zinn can contribute. Definitely want to, I guess, you definitely want to see, because with the whole thing with the alignment and the fact that we're getting somebody who's a lot more qualified in what they do than people we've had in the past, all of that is going to deal a major blow to the apathetic attitude. Now, when that starts translating into success on the fields and on the courts, hopefully, you put a knife in the back of that demon forever. It's probably not going to be
Right.
the case, but at least you might be able to subdue it. You might be able to deal a major blow to the point, where maybe it's not so much of an issue anymore. But that's wishful thinking for a long time. But definitely the alignment of this program, the qualifications of Zinn herself, it's definitely another step. I think football getting better was a step.
Yeah.
Basketball having some recent success was another step. Now you
Hmm.
have qualified people that are aligned and attacking the same issue. I feel like that's just like you're climbing a ladder, and that's just another rung right there. So, um, definitely good to see. And the next rung is to maybe even start bringing some championships into the smaller sports. we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, some of them have been like very close. Like we talked about, women's rowing. We've had guests on from women's rowing. We've talked about track and field. We've talked about soccer,
Gymnastics.
gymnastics. They made the NCAA. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I feel like they're a bit closer to potentially winning a national championship or at least competing. And then the big sports.
Even a
I
Big
mean,
Ten championship would be a great thing.
yeah, exactly, and I think Rutgers has had like pretty close to that. If in a lot of these sports, I mean, field hockey's been very good from what I remember from the last few seasons too. And yeah, I mean, I guess going back to your point about the apathy, like all of those things are gonna take away that apathy. Winning championships, the alignment, having people believe in the program, having the fans like really believe in the program, and yeah, I mean, I think about Fonseca's tweet. I mean, I think the interesting thing was like with this process, a lot of the apathy that went away, like for a long time, kind of came back in some fans. And but now with this is kind of being over and things on the right track again, that alignment's going to really take away a lot of the apathy. And like I was trying to say, I think before I got cut off, I think the important thing is, with NIL, I mean, getting really the whole community to believe, and whether it's the things that they already do, which are really great, like Knights of the Raritan collectives, getting the average fan to donate, spreading awareness, all the way up to like corporations using the New York City, Philly markets, things like that. Alumni who've had success, and convincing them to believe in the programs, and the ones who do, like, get them to support the program, support the teams, and of course all of that comes with on the field success. But it's like a circle effect, I guess. It's like the more support you get, the more money they'll have for better players, better recruits, better facilities, and then that will feed back into better athletics. So it's really like a circle. You got to get that circle going, spinning, to a greater extent. And then once that happens, the teams will get better, which will inspire, more support, and so on and so forth. So that's basically what Rutgers has to do. But I think we have the right leadership now in place to be able to do that.
I couldn't agree more. I think now it's our time.
Yeah, I like that.
Now,
With
now,
the block R in there. Now it's our
yeah,
time.
it's our time. So, taking a quick pivot over to football. Obviously, this was the first week of training camp, or I guess open practice. Well, summer training camp, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, we had a couple. We had Athan Kaliakmanis spoke to the media after the first practice. Greg Schiano spoke to the media after his first practice. I know you covered a lot of Athan's first comments. I did a lot with Greg himself. Did anything about what Athan said particularly stick out to you? Is there anything that people should know about what Athan said?
Um, I mean, he talked a lot about the roster, and I thought that was very interesting to the point where it got me to write an article. Put some of the quotes in there specifically. He also talked about his coordinator Kirk Chiraco, who he's been with since his days in Minnesota, continuing to grow with him on his personal experience. Being a fifth-year quarterback. I mean, seeing that the game slows down for him, and yeah, I mean, like on top of that, I mean, I think what I really found interesting is like, I mean, he's really supportive of the whole team, which is, I mean, should be pretty obvious as a quarterback. But just the stuff he was saying about, he feels comfortable with whoever's there and on the offensive line because he knows, they've earned it, and he's gonna feel well protected, physically by whoever's on the field with the offensive line, receivers, defensive backs. I mean, he talked about how there's competition there, not only the starters but the depth on this team is solid. And even as a Big Ten team, middle of the conference Big Ten team, I mean, yeah, there's significant depth that maybe would probably even start on like lower levels. I mean, the running back room, he talked about that, the playmakers, the receivers, how he has expectations for them. I mean, we have DT Sheffield coming in, Ian Strong, KJ Duff, and even with the quarterbacks, I mean, he's the clear-cut starter, but one thing that I really found the most interesting was what he said about his fellow quarterbacks. I mean, you might not know like who's behind him on the depth chart because he's kind of clear cut. I mean, you might know the name AJ Serace because he's expected to be the next guy. Also, Rocco, Rainone, and Sean Ashenfelder, guys that will probably never see the field for this team, but he understands.
I don't
what
know
they
about Ashenfelder. Ashenfelder seems to be the kind of guy that's going to take over after
after Serace,
Serace. Yeah,
potentially like
I
down the
wouldn't.
line.
I wouldn't discount Ashenfelder. He was somebody that they're very excited about. I wouldn't say that he's probably never going to see the field.
Yeah, well, that's a good correction. I mean, yeah, down the line, potentially this season, I guess probably not. But I mean, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
if that's a succession plan with Cerise and then Ashenfelder coming in after that, I mean, yeah, I mean, it looks like they have their ducks in the row at quarterback. But I think the thing that I found really interesting was that Kaliakmanis himself, he said, if you're at this level, you can, like you guys have something in your game that I don't have. Like even though he's the starter, he's ahead of them on the depth chart. They're not competing. Like in his eyes, like they're all, obviously they're on the same boat. But he's even learning from. He's like, yeah, I mean, maybe I do some things that are better than what they can do, but they also have things in their game that I can learn from, even though they're on the backups, they're their first years, whatever. But just because they're on, they're playing quarterback on a collegiate football team. I mean, obviously, just to get that to that point, you have to be a standout in high school. You have to have certain gifts and attributes and hard work, and he understands that. So if there's anything that he can take from the other guys to put in his game, I mean, these guys can help him learn. Like maybe I don't know like what particular like things that would be, but I mean whatever it is, like whatever gifts that they might have, whether it's mobility, a certain way they might throw a pass, a certain like anything. I mean, all these things can help like grow someone's skill set. I think one thing that I mean I think that was the most important thing. Like you never really stop learning. You're not afraid to say, hey, like I might be the starting quarterback, but I can learn from everyone, receivers, your underclassmen at my position, the coordinators. Like I'm not better or worse than anyone. I'm just I'm learning from people. And yeah, I mean, he's always had like a really good personality. And just the stuff that he's been saying about his team, about his brother, I mean, at media day and playing with him, about his teammates, like he's been very he's the type of guy you want like at quarterback. I mean, really supporting the team, taking responsibility, um you know shouldering like the blame, but also giving off the credit. Like he fits all those attributes. And I'm excited to see what he does on the field like this season. I mean, obviously, even though his metrics and his numbers weren't as maybe as good as some of the other Big Ten quarterbacks for Rutgers standards, I mean, he had the best season for a Rutgers quarterback in several years. I mean,
Since
and I think
2014, yep.
yeah, since 2014, he was the first like Knight to throw over 2,000 yards since 2015. I mean, his deep ball was the passing game has come alive for Rutgers. And this year, I mean, with more experience on the field, I mean, I can't wait to see like how that continues to develop.
You want to talk about alignment? He sounds like a young Greg Schiano, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, just the things that he says. I mean, like
He
like Greg
sounds like a
Schiano.
coach.
Yeah, I mean, just the way he talks about the roster. I mean, like, up and down the roster, not only starters, like whether it's depth, whether it's different position groups. Like he sounds like he like himself knows and studies the team. I mean, that's like what a head coach would like. You wouldn't expect your quarterback to know like the defense, but I mean, who's fighting which position battle. You might expect that, but that just shows like good leadership. And he's going to be the same guy that like when the season starts is going to compliment every opponent and what they do well, from Norfolk State all the way to like Ohio State. So I mean, I think that's something Greg Schiano does each and every week in his pressers. No opponent is too small or too big. And I have a feeling Athan's just going to be like the same kind of quarterback who again like doesn't overlook anyone, but also knows how to put in the work and the time and get the results that he needs. So I think that's yeah. I mean, I think he really represents like what a quarterback should be on this level, and if not even more than that. So just the way like he was talking, like I think was pretty inspirational. And I think that's something like people should aspire to. Like the amount of maturity he has at this age, like is pretty inspiring. But I mean, he wasn't the only one to talk to the media. I mean, other players have. Greg Schiano himself, who we just talked about, spoke after the first practice. I mean, I guess what could you since you wrote that article, what could you tell us about what Greg discussed with the media very early in practice?
Well, Greg was a little bit more oriented about the team. I mean, obviously, like you said, that like Athan talked about like different players on the team and kind of like talked him up, talked very highly of his fellow backup quarterbacks. Shannon was a little bit more like, I guess, into the down and dirty, into the grime of things. There
Mm,
was a couple of things that really jumped out at me, and number one is the defensive line. I'm pretty sure that with the graduation of Keontae Hamilton and subsequent drafting by the Texans, people were a little bit worried about like what's going on in the middle, like what is the plan here.
Right. Right.
Um, when Schiano was like kind of like pushed about it in his press conference, he almost sounded like the position was loaded with talent and they needed to figure out who's on top. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
getting in transfers like Dougie Bluelli and um, Oliver Below to go alongside alongside the existing talents in the position is it kind of seems like we're not seeing or we aren't aware of everything that's going on over there. And it sounds like Schiano thinks that it could even be a strong point of the defense because they have such a deep rotation going on there now. Another thing that he pointed out or mentioned during the press conference is that Moses Walker seems like he has all but locked up the spot next to Daryl DiGiacomo. Um, kind of expected, but it's now we like have it like almost like verbal confirmation like yes, this is Moses Walker's spot to lose. I'm sure if Walker has a terrible summer camp and somebody else has a great summer camp, he's going to lose his spot, but it seems like it's his spot to lose for now. And on the offensive side of things, it seems like when it was believed that CJ Campbell, the transfer running back from Florida Atlantic, was going to become the clear cut starter for the Knights, now
Mhm.
seems like it's not so clear on whether he's going to be the clear cut starter. I mean, obviously they still have to assess them in training camp, but it looks like Antoine Raymond is really kind of pushing him. So it's going to be interesting to see like the rotation that they're going to use because remember they have Campbell. You know, he's a proven talent. Raymond, another proven talent, though limited, still a proven talent. Then they have Sam Brown, who came back for another year, always reliable, does get injured, but always seems to be a decent option.
Right.
And then Jashon Benjamin, who they have always spoke highly of in every single press conference, and he had a pretty decent spring game as well. So it's going to be interesting to see about how the running back rotation shakes out with kind of like the four-headed monster, if you really want to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, in the absence of Kyle Monangai and what he did for Rutgers, I mean, over the last 2 years, 3 years, like 4 years, really, I mean, was just like outstanding. Especially, I mean, the last 2 seasons and winning Big Ten rushing, the rushing title, and even last year, I mean, just the way he would shake off contact, I mean, make cuts, like all of that kind of stuff was just like, I mean, the way he pushed through people. I mean, he really gave Rutgers like a dominant ground attack. But coming in, I mean, you have like you mentioned, I mean. Jashon Benjamin's contributed a lot. I mean, Sam Brown, when healthy, has contributed probably even more. I mean, he was a 4-star talent coming out of high school, is very good. And then in front, I mean, Antoine Raymond, I mean, had a big year last year as the backup running back for Rutgers. He really showed what he could do even in the bowl game, in the Howard game, and so many of the other games in the season. And then you have CJ Campbell coming in from Florida Atlantic, but it's kind of what was supposed to be, I guess, clear cut number one. But I mean, looks like there's going to be some competition. He had over 800 rushing yards, 11 touchdowns. He brings a bit of a receiving element to Rutgers in the run game, which I think even with Monangai being as good as he was, there wasn't too much of that. But I mean, he had 466 yards and 40 catches as a running back. I think that's going to add a different flair to this running back room that could even help on the receiving end, whether it's catching passes out of the backfield or what have you. I mean, having all of that go on. So I mean, I think that's going to be something to watch out for, how he impacts the receiving game as a running back with that kind of production. I don't know if these are like exactly like deep routes, but I mean, even if it's just catching passes out of the backfield, being able to be used as a receiver productively, I mean, I think that's going to be a huge boost for Rutgers. So I'm sure he's going to see the field quite a bit, just for that reason. But I mean, Raymond behind him, great option there. Sam Brown, if he could be healthy, and Jashon Benjamin, that's a lot of depth for the running back room. And then on the defensive side of the ball, like you mentioned, I mean, I think everyone, the highlights are obviously what's going on at the edge position with Eric O'Neill and Bradley Weaver. We talk about that like every week because that's very
Even
exciting.
Jordan Walker.
And Jordan Walker, behind him, Jordan Thompson on the other edge, on the other edge side. But I mean, in terms of our defensive line, I mean, there's transfers really all over the defense. I mean, cornerback, I mean, you have Cam Miller and Jet Ela and Jacoby Henderson, and I feel like what gets overlooked is in the middle of that defensive line when we're talking about guys like W. Eli, also a transfer, Daryl Dinagoe, also a transfer. I mean, from James Madison and Blue Eli coming in from South Florida. So I mean, that, and then behind them, like you said, the Rutgers, homegrown talent, Zaire Ango, who's been in the program for a little while, like you mentioned, Jordan Thompson, Keshawn Griffin, you mentioned Oliver Below, who transferred in from Kent State. I mean, looks like Greg Schiano is definitely trying to make it sound like not only is it not a problem, I mean, there's a lot of talent on this team. Whether it's the starters or the depth. So obviously, whoever is going to be starting is going to be able to hold down the fort. And I mean, if these guys are as good as advertised in the middle, I mean, like, in terms of Blue Eli and Dina Goey, obviously starters at Group of 5 programs are pretty good. I mean, like, hopefully, like they bring to the middle what we've got at the edge. I mean, obviously, everyone's going to be excited with Bradley Weaver, Eric O'Neill, the sacks, but we need to be able to hold down the fort in the middle, stop the run, all the good stuff that goes down on the D line. So I mean, yeah, as long as that stuff's good, which it sounds like it will be, I think that's pretty solid. I mean, I think it's important to obviously, hype up your own team and make sure people don't, even if there is a problem, you're not gonna go out and say there's a problem. So
it's a tone thing with Schiano. You really got to read into his tone, and that's his tell. But his because obviously he's a professional. He's not going to bash his own team.
Yeah,
but
of course not.
This time you
He
could
doesn't even
tell
bash opposing teams, even if they're not as good. Like he's very respectful to like a fault almost with that. So I mean,
Right.
let alone his own team. I mean, no one's gonna go out there and say, my own team, there's problems here and there, and then everyone's gonna exploit that. You know what I mean? So even if there were, but I don't think there really is. I think what he's trying to say is, there is a lot of talent on this team, and the cream's gonna rise up to the crop, just like any other position out there.
Right. So the interesting thing is like if all these guys are competing for a starting spot in a Big Ten team, that means that we can just keep rotating bodies and
Yeah.
and maybe be able to out depth a couple people. Wishful thinking,
True.
but it could be the truth soon.
Yeah, we'll see. But I mean, exactly. I mean, especially on the D line and on the O line, you really need to. I mean, you really need to be able to do things like that, whether it's rotations. A lot of times you hear about wearing teams down physically. Like, as unfortunate as you might think that is, because a lot of people like to focus on the skill positions, and obviously I do too. But sometimes it is about being tougher in the trenches. So we've seen Rutgers lose games that way. We've seen Rutgers win games that way when teams are slightly not quite there. I mean, sometimes a difference in that, is what wins or loses the game. I mean, we'll probably see it with Ohio, Miami, Ohio. Those are pretty solid squads, but Trench, being, literally physically and also just, stronger and having that rotation experience, having multiple guys who can come in there when the starters, making sure guys don't get tired. And that could be the difference between holding off a team like that and potentially not, and having to win the game and using your quarterback and your receivers or not winning. You know what I mean? Like all those things, like you don't think that would necessarily come into play, but I mean all those things really do. You have to have good depth, especially in the Big Ten. You have to have good depth to measure up to all the skill. When the skill level goes up a bit and you're playing top-notch powerhouses, I mean, your guys are going to get tired. I mean, you're going to need that reinforcement on every position on the offensive line. You're going to need depth, especially on defense when guys literally rotate in and out like every snap. You're going to need that, and it seems like Rutgers has it. So if for some reason they need to rotate in the second squad, whether it's Zaire Angoy or Keshawn Griffin or Jordan Walker, they're going to have the ability to do that, which I think is, a very important thing, especially on the positions of the defensive line.
It's gonna be interesting to see how everything pans out come season time. Unfortunately, not everything is going to be good news, and it never is on this podcast. Yeah. So with that, we are going to take a quick pivot into some summer recruiting updates. Now, Rutgers was able to land a commit recently from Florida cornerback Jamarius Conyers. Conyers is a 3-star, had a bunch of Power 5 offers. But unfortunately, that's where the good news for summer recruiting kind of ends, because um, and to be expected, because we're still proving ourselves as a program, we're still climbing that rung. Rutgers has been losing out on a couple of recruiting battles, not people that were already committed, just people that they were in contention for. Um, in contention for. First off is 4-star edge rusher Tyson Harley has committed to Penn State. Um, he had 30 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, and 6 sacks in his junior year at Gonzaga High School. So definitely would have liked to see him put on the Scarlet uniform, but unfortunately not. They have also missed out on 4-star defensive tackle Preston Carey, who they were in contention for a while, but he decided that his place belonged he belonged at Georgia. Um, he did take a visit to Rutgers. So did Harley. They both took visits to Rutgers. Unfortunately, they couldn't get the deal done. Um, and he decides to commit to Georgia later in the month after his visit. Rutgers still does have Donovan Johnson and Tavian Branch as top 80 players, defensive tackles for the 2026 class. However, it would have been nice to see them get like a 4-star at that position, just somebody that can like eat up bodies and get us like a real
Mm.
star in that position, because we really haven't had that since Hamilton in like the early 2010s, where he was a 5-star. He was a very highly rated recruit, and he was a absolute monster. But it would have been nice to see somebody Rutgers land another talent like that again, but unfortunately for not. And the last of the major recruiting battles that Rutgers has lost out in is that they lost out for 3-star cornerback Devontae Anderson. This one was kind of like a 3-way battle between Rutgers, Maryland, and Louisville. Louisville ended up winning that battle as he committed there less than a month ago. So not doing too great on the recruiting trail. However, um, Rutgers did land in the top 8 schools for 2027's 4-star running back Braden Tyson. So he has yet to take a visit to campus, but by all accounts, Rutgers is doing very well with the Georgia running back. So I guess we put a little good news, bad news sandwich. We use the good news as the bread, the bad news as the meat, and the other good news as the I guess the other half of the bread. But yeah. So unfortunately, Rutgers does seem to be losing to the premier talents of college football in these recruiting battles. But you know what? The fact that we're in contention with these top programs is really a tell from where we were just 5 or 6 years ago. Because being able to compete with these programs and go after the same players, it wasn't a reality not too long ago, and now I think it's really a testament to how far this program has stepped up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said it, like um, even though these guys aren't committing, they're still in the running alongside schools like Penn State, Georgia. I mean, like who would have thought? I mean, we even had like I think Jared Smith or commit. Like we've had people commit over schools like that. Obviously not in these cases, but then like you mentioned, Tyson, including Rutgers in his top 8. Rutgers being able to go down to the South and get recruits from Florida, often Georgia, Virginia. I mean, North Carolina. We've seen it up and down the coast. And then of course, at home in New Jersey and around this area. And then with YD Collier reclassifying, obviously the 26th ranking went down, but that's not really a bad thing when you think about it.
We still
Considering
got the
he's been,
player.
Yeah, exactly. That's the most important part. And then Conyers coming in from Florida. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to win every recruiting battle. I guess the thing is, yeah, when you're competing against schools like that, I think it really depends on playing time. I think like something that Rutgers may be able to sell some of these guys on that Georgia probably wouldn't is playing time. Maybe even Penn State, things like that. But then it's like how much are you willing to sacrifice playing playing for I guess a better school? Are you willing to serve as depth? Or maybe you can start for Rutgers, and sometimes it works the other way too. Maybe for Rutgers you'd be a depth piece and somewhere else you'd be a starter, but it's all relative, just like literally everything else in college football. We're just talking about weighing people down. I mean, stuff like that. That's all relative too. But this recruiting stuff, I mean, like yeah, I mean, when it comes down to top-notch schools like Georgia, Penn State, Ohio State, it's a matter of like convincing guys. What does Rutgers have that they don't? Can you get more playing time there? Can Rutgers develop into a contender like that down the line? What are the NIL opportunities looking like? So these are all real things that
What are your league opportunities looking like? What are
yeah,
your
your
NFL
NFL.
aspirations are?
Exactly. Can you develop here at Rutgers better than you would over there? Like, academics. I mean, there's so many things that, like, where it is relative to home. There's so many things that like are these recruits think about. But I mean, obviously, I think where Rutgers might have a leg up is obviously, sending guys to the league, being a developmental program. I mean, we've seen, players, really grow and develop, and maybe, you might get to be on some of these better teams, but you might not, you may not see the field, or you may be a bench player, things like that. You might not develop properly. You might not, so these are all things to consider. But I mean, obviously, if you're good enough, then go for it, I would say. But I mean, these are all things that recruits consider. So that's where Rutgers, I guess, kind of sells itself on being a developmental program, on creating league opportunities, on maybe they can get some of these guys some playing time. But really, a lot of the recruits who have committed have spoken about the competition, the Big Ten, being developmental, the coaching, all of that kind of stuff. And I feel like I feel like that's really important. That's where Rutgers differentiates itself. Oftentimes, even though and then of course on the field too, like their paths towards improving. But yeah, obviously not everyone's gonna commit that that Rutgers is gonna offer. But the way that they're able to convince the guys who have, I mean, I think that really goes to show that a lot of people believe that they're going to be able to make a difference in this Rutgers program that they might not be able to somewhere else. And that's been able to sway a lot of guys that have had offers from bigger programs. So I think that in itself is a big deal. And the fact that Rutgers is competing with these bigger schools on and off the field, in recruiting especially, I think that's a big deal too. So we'll see. I mean, it's very early in the 26 cycle, and the 27 cycle is even earlier. So I mean, I guess we're kind of more into in-season stuff, but I think Rutgers, the way the recruiting has been going, I think they're not going to have any problems. I mean, because like we mentioned, the on and off the field kind of stuff, they go together. As play on the field gets better, recruiting gets better. So I think we're going to start to see that come into play too, and I think that's going to only help the Rutgers program going forward.
I think you mentioned what you mentioned, like off the field, when it comes to they want to. Some of them want to be that guy that's going to turn the program around. They want to be the name on a. They want to be the name on a program that's looking for a name. They don't want to be just another roster spot or
Yeah,
just
that's what I
just
was
a.
saying. Yeah.
They want to be the main story, not just a cliff note. And coming to Rutgers offers them a chance to be that main story, or at least, could consume a lot more spotlight than if you were on a team that's completely loaded with stars.
Mm-hmm.
One of those guys that I guess wants to be part of this turnaround is DT Sheffield. Sheffield had a stellar year at North Texas last season and comes to the Knights as one of the most like hyped up transfers that we've had in a while. Um, there's a lot of vibe around the campus where like, or not really around the campus, but when he originally committed to Rutgers, there was a vibe where it was like, wow, Rutgers landed him, Rutgers landed that guy,
Yeah.
you know. So it seems like he brought with him a little bit of clout, and for good reason. He did have a stellar season last year.
Mm-hmm.
recently he was named to the Paul Hornung Award watch list, which is something that you covered. Could you give us a little bit more detail about like what that is, why he was named to it, like what's the whole situation going on over there?
Yeah, so I mean, the Paul Hornung Award. There's a bunch of preseason awards and or postseason awards. I think like one for every position or position group. I mean, up and down, like from kicker, special teams, defense, offense, multiple. I mean, receivers like the Volitnikov. I mean the Bednarik. I mean, there's so many, but one of the more interesting ones is the Paul Hornung Award, which is given to the most versatile college football player. Um, and usually that ends up being someone who Paul Hornung himself, first of all, did like a heck of a lot. He was known as a running back and kicker. He did a lot more than that. Just that he played, I think, on all three phases for Notre Dame, running back and kicker in the NFL, which is a very interesting combination. But typically, a lot of times those awards end up going to receivers or running backs who also kick return, punt return. Contribute to the game in multiple ways. And so that's probably one of the easiest ways to do it. So Sheffield himself is kind of known for that. I mean, he's expected to take over kick and punt return duties for Rutgers, which have kind of been dormant like in the past year. I mean, Rutgers hasn't really returned a lot. I mean, I remember Dremel returning one in the bowl game that was pretty big, but Rutgers really hasn't done a ton of that. And since Aaron Cruikshank graduated, more on him actually later on. But yeah, I mean, in terms of Sheffield, I mean, during North Texas, he was obviously a great receiver. He originally started at community college and then he ended up going to Washington State, then North Texas. He had 822 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns, but he also contributed as a kickoff returner. He had a 21.2 yard average there. He had a 12.1 average on punt returns. He returned 13 punts for 157 yards. On the ground, he contributed as a rusher for only 4 times, but for 86 yards and a touchdown. So with all of that, he ended up leading North Texas with almost 1,200 all-purpose yards and almost 100 per game, including punt returns, kick returns, and of course his play as a receiver. He could be used in the run game. So, yeah, I mean, for Rutgers, it's going to be very interesting. I mean, obviously, whether he wins the award or not, it might be a long shot, but I mean, just the fact that he's this versatile and he can do all these different things, whether it's returning punts and kicks, and he's even had a lot of big plays. I mean, he had 20 plays of 25 or more yards, which included 11 catches, 5 kick returns, 3 punt returns, and a rush. So all over the place, he's a big playmaker, whether it's catching the ball as a receiver, or returning a kick or a punt or a rush. I mean, that means he can catch the ball and he can take off, in the open field. I mean, he's that kind of a player. So very dynamic. So I mean, for Rutgers, they've had multiple guys on this list before. Some of the recent ones that come to mind are Aaron Cruikshank, Janarian Grant, Raheem Blackshear. I think all 3 of those at some point were kick returners. The first 2 were, and then all 3 of those were returners, and then of course Cruikshank, known for his versatility. I mean, he was a very good receiver. Janarian Grant was very legendary. So Sheffield's in company like that. He was one of the more heralded like transfers for this team. Big play receiver. Very excited to see him. I'm really excited to see what he could do. And yeah, I mean, in terms of the Big Ten, I mean, some of the biggest playmakers in the National Football League and in the conference have won this award. Some of the names are Jabril Peppers, Saquon Barkley, Rondale Moore. So those 3 from the Big Ten have won the award. I think all of those also return kicks. And then guys like Tavon Austin, Christian McCaffrey, Odell Beckham Jr., Devontae Smith. So a lot of today's like biggest NFL playmakers have actually won that award. So I mean, Travis Hunter won it too because he was receiver and corner. But in terms of where Sheffield comes in, I don't know if he's going to quite win the award, but the fact that he not only is a good receiver but also a return man, and maybe even could be a rusher on like end arounds and things like that, where you can get a receiver involved in the run game. I think that's going to be really cool to see. I guess I just hope it means that Sheffield kind of brings out what's been a very dormant punt return game and kick return game, because for whatever reason they've kind of gone away from that. But I think Sheffield has the ability to kind of bring that thing back to life, and he's also going to be one of the top receivers on this team. So yeah, I mean, great award to he's the second Scarlet Knight to be on a preseason award watch list, including Eric O'Neill, who's on the Lot Impact Trophy Award watch list, and obviously we know what Eric O'Neill is expected to do one of the best defensive end transfers. But I mean, I think Sheffield's going to be really good at Rutgers, and we saw Dymere Miller come in, have a great year, and I think Sheffield could be as good as him, if not even better. So in not only receiving but as a returner as well. So I think that's going to be really cool. I think the key thing is not only is he going to be a receiver, but he's going to be a returner for the Scarlet Knights, and he's a big play machine. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good honor. Hopefully that ends up getting him, getting this Rutgers offense jolted when they need to, because I think he certainly has the ability to do that.
Absolutely, I definitely agree, and congratulations to him again. Definitely, hopefully he gets named to the award. Hopefully he become. I assume he's going to be the number one option. We don't know because the sophomores and the freshmen last year, like KJ Duff, Ian Strong, all of them, they've all taken another step up. So
That's
it
true.
might be a lot more even than people think. DT Sheffield is probably not the clear cut number one option.
Yeah. I mean, all three of them will, likely be on the field at the same time and start together. I mean, they're, different positions at receiver. I think DT Sheffield's supposed to be the starting slot receiver, which now that I think about it makes a lot of sense given how dangerous he can be in the open field. And I think Ian Strong and KJ Duff are expected to be like, kind of the bigger play downfield receivers, and we've seen a lot of that too. But I think all three of them, I think the important thing is all three of them are going to contribute together. They're all going to be like the starting receivers for this team. And, with Kaliakmanis throwing the ball, I mean, I think it's safe to say that Rutgers has a good pass game now for the first time in what feels like forever. One that, can score, put up points, with the rest of them. I mean, Rutgers has been known for a lot of the other phases of the game. They've been known on defense. They've been known on special teams. They've been known with the running game with Isaiah Pacheco and, more recently Kamanungai. But I mean, now, with the passing offense like this, I mean, people are going to have to respect what Rutgers can do in that part of the field too. And yeah, DT Sheffield's going to be a big part of that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I mean, the way they finished last season was very strong in terms of the pass game and the amount of points that they were just putting on the board. And I think this season that's going to continue to develop, and Rutgers is going to have a two-dimensional offense, which is going to be a problem because, even if for some reason they don't end up throwing the ball as much, they're going to have to respect that. And that's only going to help the run game too. So, I mean, I think it's going to be really good, having a offense that can not only throw the ball really well, but pass it. And yeah, like I mentioned, or like you mentioned, DT Sheffield, KJ Duff, Ian Strong, even like a tight end like KJ or Kenny Fletcher is going to be involved in that too. And then, like we mentioned about CJ Campbell catching passes out of the backfield, I think this team has a lot of different options that can move the ball in the air. So I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an exciting part of the season. It's definitely going to be something that we're going to have to watch out for. Um, I don't think there's ever been more hype around a Rutgers receiving corps since that
I know.
2014
Yeah.
season. So when they had like Leonte Carew and Brandon Coleman and all of them.
Right.
So I don't think there's ever been as much hype around a Rutgers receiving corps as there was then than there is
Yeah.
now.
A lot of hype
So
around these three guys for sure. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so that pretty much wraps it up for everything that we do have here today. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention? Anything else you wanted to talk about before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like on the subject of football, or Rutgers football, like I mentioned Aaron Cruikshank, in terms of what kind of player Sheffield could be, and in terms of the award list that he was on, in terms of the Paul Hornung, and that definitely brought back to mind what Aaron Cruikshank did with Rutgers, and the fact that he was like Mr. Versatile for the Scarlet Knights. I mean, he was one of like an incredible returner, kick returner, punt returner, Swiss Army knife, really. I mean, he ran a lot of end rounds for Rutgers. He, jet sweeps, like things like that, because he was just so speedy. I mean, like it's hard to return, especially in this day and age, return punts and kicks for touchdowns, but he did it like pretty like often. And even if not, like he would set up the team with good field position. Yeah, I mean, Aaron Cruikshank was definitely a big standout for the Scarlet Knights. I mean, he had over 4,000 all-purpose yards, and not only was he a good receiver, but he was, I think, probably best known for like his play as a return man. Honestly, or maybe both of them at the same time, really. But he was definitely very well known for his play as a return man. He was the Big Ten Rogers Dwight Return Specialist of the Year, first team All Big Ten. This was 2020. He returned 2 kickoffs for touchdowns and averaged 26.8 yards per return. So he was definitely a player that like DT Sheffield kind of represents or could look up to because he was very versatile. But after college, he ended up going to the NFL. As a UDF undrafted free agent, signing with the Bears and the Steelers, although he never saw the field for either of the teams. He ended up bouncing around, and he ended up in Europe, actually, where he has had quite the season for the European League of Football. And I definitely saw that story or saw some of the statistics and decided to write an article on that to bring some awareness. But he's just been like an absolute playmaker, getting open all over the field. I mean, his speed, it just shows. I mean, his team, the Madrid Bravos, have been really good, but he's about to have a record-breaking season in the European League of Football. I think he's already set one of the records. He leads the league in receiving yards, and there's still 2 more games to go when I wrote this. He also broke the single season receiving touchdown record with 2 games to spare. He's 124 yards away for surpassing the single season receiving yards record. And then he also is very close to passing the single season receptions record. He needs 17 in the next 2 games. So, I mean, it's just pretty incredible that he has been able to do all of that. Currently leading the league in receiving yards, but he has a chance to pass that record. He's already had, the single season receiving touchdown record, and he's very close to the receptions record. So, of course, the European League of Football isn't quite like where the NFL is, although I've seen numerous some college football players bounce around and end up there. But I mean, the fact that he's been able to have that kind of success, I mean, it's pretty cool, honestly. I mean, and so I guess don't forget about guys like Aaron Cruikshank, and maybe that might lead him to come back to where it's the NFL or the CFL, somewhere like that. I mean, we've had so many former Rutgers stars in those leagues as well, and in the CFL play for many years. I think Adam Corsak's there. Some other people have been there too. So
Janorian Grant's been there for a while.
Yeah, Janarian Grant, that's the name of him, and he's been like pretty good in the CFL. He's had accolades and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, just because you don't make it in the NFL, I mean, doesn't mean your football career is necessarily over. I didn't really know about this league actually until I saw some of the stats and wrote my article. So I mean, I know the NFL plays overseas in Europe. They have a program to bring players in overseas. I didn't really know too much about the league that they had themselves, although I've heard about it. But hey, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm really happy to see that because as a Rutgers fan, especially as one who like started following the team around the time when Aaron Cruikshank was one of the biggest stars of the team. It's really cool to see him like succeed on the next level. And of course, when any Rutgers player succeeds on the next level, that means it's a great achievement and we have to talk about it. But especially in a sport like football, that gets a lot of attention. Definitely really exciting to see that. But other than that, I mean, that's pretty much all I had to talk about. Yeah, I mean, I thought that was definitely worth noting that he's having such a good performance in Europe that it could be record breaking for their league.
Some people are just are not talented enough to get in the NFL, but they're too talented not to do anything with football for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, exactly. That's why all those leagues exist, like the CFL, the UFL. Yeah, I mean, different things. They have the Arena Football League. They have leagues overseas. So, yeah, sometimes it is unfortunately like that. He wasn't really talented enough to even really make a roster, let alone like see the field for an NFL team. But that didn't stop him, and he's one of the best players overseas, competing against guys that were I guess from Europe, played mostly in Europe and stuff like that. I mean, obviously he's going to stand out. So yeah, really cool to see. That pretty much is all I had to cover, I guess. That's pretty much all I had to add this week.
All right, sounds good. So that's going to pretty much do it for everything that we have here today. A lot of football talk. We'll be updating. We'll be doing podcasts, every week, talking about the course of training camp and giving you updates about everything going on with that. So that does it for everything that we have here. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, the bells must ring.